Hello, readers. Welcome to 20 Questions with Your Favorite Author, where we ask authors important questions like, why would you agree to be on this podcast? I'm Kelly Lynn Colby, the editorial director at Cursed Dragon Ship Publishing. Our guest this week is Drew Williams, writer of space operas and recovering bookseller. He loves to write, and he hopes you will love these characters and their story as much as he does. He also has very strong opinions about Moby Dick, which we'll ask him about later. If he's not your favorite now, he will be after. Yay! Awesome. Hey, welcome, Drew. How are you this evening?
Cheers, I'm great. How are you? How are your lovely viewers?
Oh, they look nice. They're active. They're on and talking. Got Henry on now, too. Henry and Kit and the moms are on and Dave's on, and we've got lots of people. So we're going to have fun tonight.
And Kit and Dave and all others.
That's right. That's right. Let's see. So we're going to start with our normal question that readers love to ask and writers hate to receive. So I apologize for doing this to you, but I must represent the readers. So the first question is, where do you get your ideas?
Everywhere. Like that. The thing about that question that always struck me is that it's not a problem of getting ideas. It's a problem of putting the ideas together. It's like writing a book isn't like being desperate for that one great idea, right? Writing a book it's like making a jigsaw puzzle. It's a 1,000-piece jigsaw and you have 30,000 pieces. It's about figuring out which ideas don't fit, because that's like the ideas are everywhere. Even if it's just walking down the street going, oh, hey, look at that car. That's a nifty looking car. That's an idea. Like the shape of that car, the people inside the car, that's part of the idea. So it really is that notion of the ideas come from everywhere around you. They come from the books you read. They come from the video games you play. They come from the movies you watch. They come from your history, your friend's history, from everybody you know. It's just finding a way to sort of transmute them. Like that's the alchemy of storytelling, I think.
I love it. That's a great answer. Why did you start writing?
I have no idea. That is one of those weird, like maybe I've just been hit on the head a whole lot. Like I have always written. I've written since I was a small child. Like, I don't remember a time where I wasn't telling stories and writing stories. Maybe I just like lying. You know, it could be that. I was a really good liar as a kid, too. But yeah, I've always told stories. So I don't really know why. It's really more of a compulsive tick than anything else.
Nice, nice. Well, at least you've put this to good use instead of becoming a con artist. I mean, it could have gone either way.
Exactly. It really could have. Like that was the other option pretty much was scamming old ladies in Boca Raton.
Wait, did you choose wisely then?
No, probably not.
So where is your favorite place to write?
Literally right here. Like where you are looking at is where I write. I just do it in the morning rather than in the evening because I like to write when I'm not quite awake yet. Like basically the self-critical part of my brain hasn't woken up. The part of the brain like, that sentence sucks. Like that part's not awake yet. But yeah, I am very much a creature of habit. I write every morning in the same place every day. Like I can't do it well if I'm not there. Like I'll jot down notes everywhere, but no, the act of writing I do right here at my desk every morning.
That's very clever. I think Hemingway always said, write drunk. And I think he just meant you need to turn off that critical part of your brain. So you figured out how to do it.
Exactly. Without the, crippling alcoholism.
Yes. Yeah, I'm working on mine. No, I found out I can't write when I'm drunk because I think it's brilliant. And then I have nothing to work with later. So, in the early years where you try all the writing advice you hear.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, you can get those great ideas. Speaking of where do ideas come from, some of those are really good ideas. It's just that when you actually try to write them, not so much.
It doesn't work. Those pieces don't fit.
Yeah, they really do. They're kind of soggy.
That's right. Depends on how good the night was. Let's see. In The Universe After series, you chose to tell the story in first person. And that's pretty unusual for science fiction. So what influenced this decision?
Interestingly enough, I write both in first and third. So I've written some things in first, I've written some things in third, and it really has more to do it's a snap decision, right? It's almost the first decision you make when you sit down to write something. Like, you sort of have to decide. And that when I make that decision, it really has more to do with perspective. It's how tight do I want this perspective to be on this character? Because I'm looking at it and going, okay, I'm going to have a sprawling cast. There's going to be dozens of characters going off on different adventures. Well, you're not going to want to write that in first, because you're not going to want to follow dozens of characters in first. You're going to want to do that in third. But if I'm going to be tight on a character, if I want to get that deep in their head, I really do prefer first for being in first person, for putting you in that character's combat boots. Like, it works immediately to me.
Excellent. So your series is considered space opera. How would you define that genre?
Space opera to me is very much science fiction without worrying about a lot about the science. And that's going to make everybody mad. But I mean, to me, that is kind of what it's almost more important to me than the space part is the opera part. It's that notion of telling these sort of big melodramatic stories, right? That notion of these like sweeping sagas. A space saga, I'd take that too. I'd take that sort of like Icelandic thing. Like, but yeah, I like space opera. I love writing space opera because of that notion of sort of those big emotional beats are more what I'm looking for. Like, I'm not necessarily trying to figure out, like a lot of science fiction writers are trying to figure out, and good for them, they're better at it than me, but sort of that question of where technology is going and what's it going to make us, and those sort of big picture questions, those are great, but that's not necessarily what I'm interested in. I'm interested more in the human side of the story. There's that sort of emotional connection you forge with the characters. And to me, I think that's what makes space opera space opera.
Yeah. I love it. Makes sense to me. Let's see. Dave's got a question. He wants to know, who are your science fiction influencers or influences?
That's an interesting one, because the number one name that comes to mind isn't actually a novelist. The number one name, I feel like, honestly, if you're writing science fiction now, you're either engaging with this name or running as far from this name as you possibly can, by which I mean you're then defining yourself by this name. And it's George Lucas. Like, I'm sorry, it just is. Like, George Lucas is the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to science fiction. You're either writing sci-fi influenced by George Lucas, or you're writing sci-fi trying desperately to prove that you're not influenced by George Lucas. And to a certain extent, Gene Roddenberry is even the same way, I think, in that those sort of two visions of the future, it's a lot like Tolkien. Like, if you're writing fantasy, you're either acknowledging the influence Tolkien had on you, or you're going out of your way to write something as far from Tolkien as possible, which means you're acknowledging Tolkien. So yeah, honestly, it's got to be George Lucas primarily. I mean, it feels kind of like a cheat. Like, you're going to name authors. You're going to say Arthur C. Clarke, you're going to say Frank Herbert. That's all fair. And Robert Heinlein. I mean, even he wasn't necessarily writing space opera, but William Gibson is a huge influence of mine. But yeah, honestly, number one with a bullet's George Lucas.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, with our generation especially, right? Assuming we're close enough to the same generation, that's definitely
very much
huge influence on everything.
On those films. And that was just, I knew, my perfect example for Star Wars is that I'm of the age where I don't remember, spoilers, by the way, not knowing that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Right.
Like, that is something that was just always true for me. So I literally don't remember seeing those films for the first time. They're just sort of baked in.
Yeah, it's one of those, your mother says that she took you to it, but you don't actually. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like, if you say so, like, what really happened was you guys wanted to see it and couldn't get a babysitter. But like,
well, details. Let's see. So, Dave says, good chance Lucas never heard of it, but Space Battleship Yamada is a huge influence on me. Oh, that's awesome, Dave. Let's see. I guess it's anime. Are you a fan of anime?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, that was in reference to an earlier comment about what about like Battleship Yamato? It isn't like Lucas's ideas didn't come up or came up in a vacuum. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Lucas himself was stealing left, right, and center. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right there. I mean, just look at, oh God, my mind just went blank. Akira Kurosawa and how much just from a filmmaking perspective, Lucas stole from him. I mean, look at how much he stole, like the back and forth between Return of the Jedi and, the Dune that wasn't the Jodorowsky Dune. Like, Lucas was absolutely a thief, don't get me wrong. But again, so was Tolkien. Like Tolkien was.
Yeah, but we're all thieves. Yeah, Shakespeare was too. We're all thieves.
Yeah, we all steal, and just the trick is to steal from as broad a net as possible.
Right. Yeah, that's what Jim Butcher says too, right? He's like, no, we're not reinventing the wheel here. It already exists. You just put your personality into it. Is what you do. Salman
Rushdie actually in Harun and the Sea of Stories wrote it really, really well. He talked about basically the sea. It's a fable, and it's literally there a sea of stories, and that's where stories come from. And these fish swim through the sea, and they swallow up the water, and it gets combined inside of them, and it comes out again, and it's all mixed up, and it's a different thing than it was when it went in. And that's very much that notion of, we're all drawing from the same well, but our experiences, our perceptions of the water in that well make it different when it comes from us.
Yeah, I love that. So, and considering we're all fans here, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of this, have you watched any TV lately that you've really gotten into?
Weirdly enough, during the whole quarantine is horrible. I don't know what the last. No, I watched WandaVision. That's true. I love WandaVision.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
That's about the only thing new. That's about the only thing that's not 5 years old at least that I've watched over the last year. Everything else has all been ancient. It's no, I don't want to. I can't deal with new concepts right now. And it's all just so weird watching new stuff now without people wearing masks and people shaking hands. That's fine if I'm watching something made in the 90s because it's set in the 90s. Okay, they didn't have to deal with that in the 90s, but something that's supposed to be contemporary, it just seems weird.
Feels wrong now.
Exactly.
You're I need my comfort TV. If you could write in any world that wasn't your own, which world would that be?
So if I could write as in.
Yes.
So I am doing the writing whilst in the world, or
no. George Lucas calls you and say, "Hey, I need Star Wars stories," that kind of thing. So, whose world would you like to write in?
Yeah, Star Wars is definitely up there. I'd take a crack at Firefly. I'd love to take a crack at Whedon. Going back to WandaVision, I'd love to take a crack at Marvel. There are corners of the Marvel universe I would be overjoyed to take a crack at. So again, I'm just naming, at this point, I'm just sort of naming tentpole science fiction franchises. I'd write an Aliens something in a heartbeat. Honestly, anything James Cameron's ever been involved in.
Titanic?
Yeah, I would absolutely. Are you kidding me? I would love to write Titanic. I'd probably make it genre. I'd probably add some sort of supernatural twist, and everybody would hate it. But I would absolutely write the Titanic 2, the Ghost Titanic. Yeah, I
like that.
And that's why I'd do it, and I'd have fun. No one would read it, but I'd have fun.
But I would have fun. You've got to have fun. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
Well, let's see. So for your own work, if you could spend the weekend with one of your characters, who would it be and where would you go?
All of my characters terrify me. That's sort of the thing. These are all, they're very traumatized people who have been through these incredibly excruciatingly difficult times that I feel they'd all look at me and be oh, no. We have nothing in common. Person who's never had to fight for their life. Person who never you sit behind a screen and type stuff. That's no. Yes, again, it's also just one of those how would they know that I was their writer? Would I be some sort of and then they'd really hate me for that, wouldn't they? Be oh, you're our god. You're a terrible god. I'm going to reach up to the mountain and tear you down because of all that you've put us through. I hate you so much. Is how I assume my character.
So maybe don't confess.
Yeah, just lie. Just yeah, I'm Chad.
Do a Fizbin thing, right? Fizbin from Dragonlance, where you pretend you're not a god.
Hello, fellow mortal. I am just one of you. there with the who likes cheesesteaks. Do you still have cheesesteaks? I can't remember if I wrote cheesesteaks.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Hold on, right. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that would be the worst, though. I never thought about that because we do torture our characters, right? Because that's how we really find out who we are, right? So if we're torturing them, I don't know, I'd want to spend a weekend with them because I'd feel guilty the whole time.
Yeah, like, even if they didn't know, it's like, oh, well, I did that to you. Like, I was directly responsible. Like you over there, the one's like missing an eye.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to have to change that question. It's a mean question. What am I thinking?
Again, my filter is a little bleak, so I'm going to turn a lot of these into avenues you maybe didn't expect.
Well, that's weird you said that, though, because there's a lot of comedy in your work. So there's a lot of humor. There's humor, like I read stuff, both in your books and interviews, when you're writing about other people's books, it's all humorous. So why do you put all that humor in there? Why is that important to you?
It's a coping mechanism. It's absolutely, it's something I do when I'm nervous. No, humor, I think, from a writing standpoint, humor is very important to me because it's a cheat, because it's a shortcut. We like people who make us laugh. If someone is funny, we're going to like that character more. And that means we're going to care when awful things happen to that character. If I can make a reader like a character with 3 lines of dialogue, so long as at least one of those lines is a killer joke. Like if the first thing a character says on the page is really funny, you're going to like that character. And you're going to be immediately emotionally invested in that character, which I think is what we're all looking for when we're writing these characters, as a way to get the reader involved.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Like when you mentioned Firefly, none of those people, at least most of them, are not really good people.
Yeah.
They make us laugh and we forget about the, trauma until you see what they actually happened to them. And then you're
they're flawed people, but we like them because they're funny, because they remind us sort of our friends, and we feel like we're part of that group. We feel like those are our friends and we're rooting for them to succeed.
Yeah, that's a good point. So as a bookseller, as you were in a previous life, what books do you recommend most often?
Again, the thing about being a bookseller is it depends entirely on what someone comes into the store asking for. And here's the thing that I couldn't say as a bookseller, but I will absolutely say now, is the best thing you can possibly do is move people one rung up the ladder from whatever awful thing they're reading. So if someone comes in and really, really likes, I can't overcome the bookseller thing where I don't want to name a specific author because I don't want to offend somebody.
You might meet them someday. You never know.
Exactly. Let's say they come in and they really, really like an author that you're like, wow, that's awful. You can't then immediately turn them on to an absolutely fabulous author, right? You have to find someplace middle that you can sort of like gradually move them toward. But no, sorry, that was tangent. I loved selling Tana French, just because Tana French was that great answer to people. A lot of trends at the time when I was bookseller were those sort of psychological thrillers, those sort of genre writers, the Girl with Dragon Tattoo, there's another big one that is just completely slept by, the Gillian Flynn stuff. And when people would finish those series, they'd come in and look for something was next, and I'd always push them towards Tana French, just because she's one of my favorite authors, but she also filled that niche so well that if people liked that sort of book, they were going to like her. So again, I love her, don't get me wrong, but it was also because she was a good fit for what was selling.
Nice. Good answer. I haven't even heard of her. I'm going to have to look. I must have missed something.
Irish was a crime writer, so it's not it's genre because it's mystery, but it's not science fiction. It's not fantasy. So not necessarily the same circles.
We only sell speculative fiction, but I read everything.
Oh, there we go.
I love to read. Yeah. Reading, my personal reading habits. Yeah.
Lovely.
No, I believe it's important to read widely.
Absolutely.
And we have someone on called Medusa's Mirror. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yep.
We have a new person on. Hi, Medusa. And Jacob joined. And yes, awesome. So I just read them just in case it's someone you know. I want the fans to know that you know that they are here. And remember, if you have any questions, put them in the thing.
what's up?
Remember that if they're not fans before, they will be after. That's the whole thing. Let's see. Dave says your titles are excellent. At what point in the writing process do you come up with the title?
Different for all three books. The very first book was literally just called Stars the whole time. I am terrible, especially with first books in a series with working titles. Like you're lucky I didn't just call it Space Opera. And the actual title was pulled from a line of dialogue in the book. And then the second one came to me I knew the second one before I even knew what the book was about. And just sort of came out of nowhere. And so then I had to go the opposite route because the first one was a line of dialogue. In the first book, I had to fit the second title into a line of dialogue in the second book. And then the third was sort of roughly between the two, like came up with it relatively early in the process, but not like all the way at the end or all the way at the beginning.
Well, that's nice. So, and they let you keep your titles then. They liked them.
Yeah, I think there was I think the third one. Okay, I'm not going to look behind me on the shelf to see where it is because if they changed some of the grammar. I think originally it was flames was plural. It was firmament of flames, and they changed it to the firmament of flame. I think. I'm honestly not sure. I may be wrong about part of that. It may have gone in the other direction, but yeah, that's the only one.
Well, it does say the firmament of flame. I can read it, so you've got.
Okay, yeah. So originally it was flames was plural, and someone was like, "Yeah, it works so well." I was like, "Okay, whatever you guys say."
Whatever you say. Sometimes you just have to let them have it.
Yep, absolutely. I save my energy for the big fights.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly true. Just like raising children, you got to pick your battles, man. Kit says the title's been taken. I think it was one of the earlier ones you were saying, like just the stars. But Kit, titles cannot be copywritten. That's why you'll go through and you'll look up a title and there'll be a bazillion of them. Even Space Opera. She said that title's been taken. If you look up, no, you cannot copyright a title. You can name it anything.
There were like 3 books called Pagan Babies. I have no idea what like cultural phenomena happened that 3 authors at roughly the same time decided that Pagan Babies was what they were going to go for. But one was like an Elmore Leonard book. I think the other one was sort of speculative fiction. I can't remember what the third was. But yeah, to the point that like you can't copyright a title. Yeah, 3 authors entirely separately all said Pagan Babies. That's what we're going to go with.
Different genres and everything.
Yeah.
It's so weird. But yep, you could just use them. So one of the first things you learn. That's why one of my new books is called The Collector. And of course I was not smart enough to search how many The Collectors there were, but it's okay. It's done. It'll be fine. Let's see. So what hobbies do you enjoy to refill your creative cup?
Weirdly enough, I pretty much all I do hobbies wise is consume creative media. So like I watch movies, I play video games, I watch anime, I read books, I read comics, but it's all sort of that sort of consumptive of and mostly narrative media too. Like I like stuff with a story. I don't so much get into music. I play guitar badly because I'm a white guy who at one point was in his 20s. Like that's just
it's required.
Exactly. Like it's like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. You can either be into sports or you can play guitar badly. Choose.
And you're like, wait, running? Give me the guitar.
Yeah. Exertion? No. But yeah, honestly, I probably spend more time with video games than anything else because that makes me feel like I'm active, even though I'm not at all.
I always said, man, if I had to walk as much as my characters do in the games I'm playing, I would be in such good shape.
Like my heart's pounding, my pulse is up. This is like exercise, right? This is cardiovascular somehow.
Totally counts. I say it counts.
Playing Dark Souls shaves how many years off my life? That's like...
Oh, I just played Little Nightmares, the first one. And yeah, there was enough creepy things in there. My heart was going very fast.
That scared the bejesus out of me. I actually just started that like about a week ago. And was like, no, it's like 2 a.m. I need to find something with like plush, cuddly pandas or something to play right now. Because no, I'll go back to this in the daytime.
Oh, so creepy. It's so much fun. Let's see. So... I asked you that one. What project that's in progress or not started are you most excited about?
I okay. Can people actually answer that question? Because I feel like
Sometimes.
I feel like I'm like not allowed to answer that question. There are either various agreements that I would be breaking by answering that question, or I would absolutely jinx myself by so that that one's my mulligan. That's I'm gonna mulligan on that one.
Oh, I see. I'm gonna have to ask you the hard one then. Yeah, if you don't like that one, we'll have to ask, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I am the most boring ice cream person in the world because my favorite flavor of ice cream is I like Rocky Road ice cream, right? Rocky Road ice cream's good, but it's too strong for me because I'm a weenie. So I mix it with vanilla ice cream. Like that I have to cut my like strongly flavored ice cream. So I have 2 tiny cartons of vanilla and Rocky Road, and I mix them. Because I'm apparently like a Mormon. I don't know. Apologies to any Mormons in the audience.
Gotta have that ice cream in. That's so funny. Let's see. We have, Kit has a good point. She says you can have a dead project that you liked. So is there a project that just didn't work and you had to put in a drawer?
And again, I very much like, to me, those are still alive projects. Like, regardless, no matter how many people passed on them, no matter how many people said you cannot publish this, like, you don't understand, you will be burned at the stake if you publish this. I don't care. Like, as far as I'm concerned, that is still maybe one day somehow that will happen.
It'll hit the right chord.
But still, to me, it's alive. So I'm not saying, Kit, that you're like dancing at the graveside of the child that I've buried, but this is a little bit.
Fine.
Let me believe. I just need to believe.
See, I just put them away and never want to look at them again. So, how about when you create the alien races of your world, how do you picture them? Like, do you sketch them out? Do you think of aliens from pop culture and extrapolate? Or do you look at your pets cross-eyed?
Ability to actually like sketch them out. No, I tend to start with animals. I tend to start with, okay, this alien race is, this animal but sentient. This animal, the basic question is, what would humanity be like if we had evolved from something other than simians, other than apes? And that's sort of my starting block, is sort of, what does a creature that was an alpha predator like a crocodile, what happens when that creature evolves to our level of sapiens? Like, how is their society different? How is their technology different? And so that's sort of, when they're facing very different conflicts during that evolution, conflicts with each other, conflicts with their ecosystem, how does that change? Because that's the question you always want to ask, right, when it comes to aliens, is how are they like us and how are they different from us? Like, and somewhere in between those two is where you find it. But yeah, I almost always start with animals. Like, in my head, it's very much, okay, that's the owl one, that's the snake one, that's the crocodile one, that's the wolf one. Like, that's sort of always my starting point.
Excellent. So if you could have any pet in the world, what would it be?
It would absolutely be a dragon, and it would very specifically be a dragon from Naomi Novik's Temeraire books.
So what's special about those dragons?
Hey, they talk. So, like, okay, pet is actually weird, like a little bit of weird.
No, that's okay. You're good.
I don't want to be like, because that's actually a plot point in the series, is that they're basically like being enslaved, and it's not good. But but yeah, they talk. They do that very fantasy thing where they bond with the human that is first there when they're born, and so they're like, I'm your best friend forever, and it makes you cry because you're a big weenie like me. And Novik's just a fantastic writer, and I love those books. But yeah, that's an easy answer. Done.
Yeah. Dragon's an easy answer.
Yep.
I have to tell some writers. Remember, only speculative writers do. I'm like, it can be a pretend creature. It can be anything.
What's this wombat nonsense? You can have a gargoyle. You can have a dragon. You can have a unicorn. You can have a unicorn dragon. Like, that's
anything you want.
Chinchillas. Don't all look at them. They take a dust bath. Even dragons take fire baths. That's cooler. I burn down your house.
Chinchillas are pretty soft. You're pretty soft. No, I'd take a talking dragon too. That would be nice. Or just a nice wyvern that doesn't talk. It's more like a horse.
As long as you
So
eat my enemies, it's always a plot. That's really what I'm looking for. Eating of the enemies.
right. And my enemies tend to be like, I don't know, the HOA. So I can be, oh yeah, HOA, you don't like the decoration in my yard? Or send the dragon after him.
Let's see how your yard looks now, huh? How does your yard look, Tammy?
Yeah, exactly. Nice try. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking at the things. Those dragons are also the size of aircraft carriers. Oh, Medusa says the dragons are also the size of aircraft carriers.
Some of them, not all of them. Some of them. Some of them.
Yeah, you're definitely going to need land.
That's true.
Yeah.
But still, like there might be a smallish one. I look at the size of a horse, size of a dog, even. Like, leave me alone. Dragon.
He wants that kind of dragon, just smaller. How's that, Medusa? Does that satisfy? I think that's fair. Yeah. I'm thinking aircraft carrier. I'm like, ooh. Let's see.
Defeating the aircraft carrier-sized dragon might also be a bit of a problem. Like the head of cattle.
Yeah, a day. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
can't. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be hoarding a treasure somewhere and sleeping and not eating all of our food?
And the cleaning up after the eating the head of cattle not so much fun either.
No.
They make the plastic bags quite big enough for that.
They're magical. Can we make them just soak up sunlight and be fine? I mean, come on now.
Done.
Yeah, I think that's how it should be. The teeth are just for decoration. Let's see. What is your least favorite chore around the house?
Oh, can I just say like chores in general? Can it just cleaning? Yeah, I get very specifically though, like cleaning in that, like I'm fine with like picking stuff up, but I'm fine with like doing the dishes. But the actual like getting out the vacuum and like again dusting. What is the point in dusting? Like dusting is the dumbest thing that is actually vaguely necessary. Like no, it's not hard, but it's stupid. You feel stupid doing it. You feel like you're in a French farce and you should be wearing a frilly apron while you run around with a little thingy. Like dusting. Dusting is the answer.
I like that. It's repetitive. That's the problem.
Really, and it's all about getting to places you don't ordinarily reach, which just means you're going to feel bad for not using whatever it is you haven't been getting.
Yep, that's exactly it. Then you start wondering, do I need all this crap? Yeah. That's where I always end up. Why do I have all this crap?
Yeah. Why is there so much stuff in this house?
That's right.
Where does it all come from? It is not my fault.
Well, sadly, usually. What is your idea of a vacation?
At the moment, a vacation would be going literally anywhere that's not this house.
Literally anywhere.
a mile that away. That's a vacation. No, I mean, okay, you say the words a vacation. I am very much in that. Like, what comes to mind is going to the beach. Like, call me basic all you want, but it is very much that, like, little, okay, pretend I have money, but little house on the beach somewhere, on that crowded beach. You wake up in sunset, you have your coffee. Oh, look, there's the ocean. You go swimming. There's a porpoise, and you play with him, and he tells you all your secrets, and you go to have the magical world thing. But anyway, yeah, beach. Going to the beach. That's my answer.
So where do your ideas come from again?
A porpoise told him to me.
That's my pet. He lives in my pool. Tells me all the secrets. So what is the best thing that you have ever, or at least recently, eaten?
That is a really good question. I honestly that is the first one of these that I'm like, that's legitimately a stumper. Like, I'm flashing through, like, every great meal. And you know what the answer is? Probably, like, something, it's like that hot dog I had in New York at 3 a.m. when I was 13. Like, is probably honestly the answer. Like, it's one of those, like, I would love to say, like, oh, yes, when I was in Paris, I had this wonderful little outdoor cafe, and there was express. But no, the answer is a New York hot dog at 3 a.m. at 13. Most likely. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go with that hot dog.
Actually, I like that answer, because then what that says to me is it was more about the experience you were having than it was actually what the heck you were eating.
Absolutely, yeah.
I like that. Let's see. And what is the first thing you want to do when it's safe to do things again?
The very first thing I want to do, I think, probably would be just walk. Like, you can do that now, but it feels weird, right? Like, if you got the mask on and it feels like people are like, oh, what's that person doing out there? Like, as much as I would love to say, like, go to a movie theater, I honestly don't. Like, I think that part of my brain may be broken. Like, that, the part of my brain that's going to be comfortable sitting in the dark with 300 people, I don't know that I'm going to want to do that even when it's safe to do that. Like, sorry for any theater owners watching, but like, that's gonna, as much as I miss going to the theater and I love going to the theater, that may, like, that connection in my brain may be sort of permanently broken. But yeah, I do think the answer is just sort of be out in general. Like, just that notion of being able to sort of wander around and not have that conception in your head of sort of, okay, am I being responsible? Am I making other people feel like I'm not being responsible? Am I making other people feel safe? Am I making, like, just not having to worry about any of that and just being able to sort of be out, I think is my answer.
That's a good answer. Kit says if you want to go out and walk and look normal, you just carry a boombox. See, so instead of they'll be like, what are you doing? They'll be like, cool, who's that guy?
He must be going to sit under someone's window, play some Phil Collins, and subsequently get arrested. We're so in the movie. Isn't this cute?
We're 6 feet apart. It's Peter Gabriel, though.
Oh, right, it is. It is Peter Gabriel.
See, same generation.
This different part of Genesis.
Oh, it's so funny. Let's see. Do we have another question? Did I miss one? No?
Well, no? You're asking that of me. Like, I knew the questions. I'm just sitting here, like, making stuff up.
Oh, didn't we tell you that you're supposed to ask me questions now? That's how this works.
Oh, that's how
now
this
it's your
works.
turn. Yeah,
right.
No, that's not how this works.
Cerulean. That's the question. Figuring out where the question is in there is the question.
I don't know. The first thing I think is sky. I mean, it's beautiful. Blue, it's gorgeous. I mean, there's probably some cerulean in here somewhere. Totally works. All blue. It's way to go. Yep. Let's see. Jacob says you should roam the earth like Jules.
You know what? That is absolutely what I would do. And like, you know, some might call it being a bum, but they get shot in a toilet 2 days later. So who cares?
It's fine. It'd be the most freeing 2 days of your whole life. I always think it would be fun just to roam, except I would be like, I'm hungry and I need a shower. It wouldn't last very long for me.
Where's the nearest Motel 6? Is that still roaming? Like,
that's right.
Technically. Like, I think even Kane from Kung Fu got to sleep in a bed every once in a while.
Right. Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. Do you like beer? Do you drink beer?
I'm actually a recovering alcoholic, so the answer is yes. I like beer a lot.
But you don't drink it, so I got it.
Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
There you go. You never know. That's why I was asking. So let's see. I guess finally. Oh no, actually, I forgot. I had a very important question. Mm-hmm. What's your problem with Moby Dick?
I hate Moby Dick. My problem with Moby Dick is awful. That's my problem with Moby Dick. Like, Moby Dick is up there with Finnegan's Wake in terms of, I don't think anyone actually enjoys these. They just force themselves to find meaning in them, because if they can't, then the eternity they've spent reading these books has been wasted, and they can't wrap their minds around that. They just can't admit that they were conned into reading Moby Dick or Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan's Wake, by the way, has always been a con. Joyce admitted it was a con. The whole point is to be a con. Moby Dick is just terrible. Like, that's, at least Joyce was doing Finnegan's Wake on purpose. Moby Dick is just awful. Sorry, no, it's how long is that book? 800 pages? That is 700 pages of
tiny little print.
Tiny print of incredibly mundane nautical like research and 100 pages of the most obvious narrative possible. You can't take revenge on an animal. It doesn't remember that it hurt you. Guess what? That's it. That is the extent of narrative.
End of the book.
I just saved you 820 pages of nautical word I can't say, probably on Twitch.
Oh, no, Twitch is pretty open. You're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Ash says you're awesome. She completely agrees with you. I laugh because I never liked Moby Dick either. And so, but people would sing its praises and I would just look at them and not say anything because I wasn't confident enough to say what you just did.
Look, I'm always a big believer in the notion that people are allowed to like different things. You know, everyone has different experiences. That means they enjoy different things, except for people who enjoy Moby Dick because they're all assholes.
Elitists. That's what I always said. So, okay. We have 2 more questions. 1, do you prefer Mexican or Italian food?
Mexican. Like that. Don't be wrong. That's a harder question than I just immediately answered. So maybe it wasn't. But like I do love Italian food. But no, at the end of the day, it's Mexican. Like it just is. Like, sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. I'm pretty much just like
that was a good answer.
But yeah,
I told you we're the podcast of serious questions. So good job. So finally, what I would like to know is where can fans find you and your work?
They can find my work wherever great books are sold. Primarily in terms of social media, I spend most of my time on Twitter. That's where I do. I have no idea what my Twitter handle is. I think it's just Drew Williams IRL, which is the handle I use. But yeah, that's primarily where I do most of my musings. And yeah, the books, Universe After, Drew Williams, it's on Amazon. It's on hopefully at your local booksellers. If you can buy from them because the quarantine. I don't really know how to do that pitch anymore. Everything is weird.
Okay. It's all changed. There's no more book signings. I don't know how to sell books anymore.
Exactly. Like I just had that knee jerk, like send them to the local bookseller. And like hopefully I can still do that.
Depends on what state they live in.
True.
All right. Excellent. Well, Drew, you were awesome. So everyone, please get Drew's books and don't forget to leave reviews. Reviews are the present that you leave for your author. And also please review this podcast so that more people can find us and discover all these amazing authors. And we will see you next week when we have Laurel McGarg on. So that'll be fun. So we'll see you next time. Thanks, Drew.